So, welcome back, everybody. As you can see, Tyler Kiwala is back. And our topic of today will be, do we create our own reality? Tyler, welcome back. I hope you're fine.
I'm doing great. I didn't sleep enough last night. I did get a little sleep. I'm tired today, but I feel good somehow. I'm doing good. So we're here, and I'm excited to get into this because actually, that's a topic that I believe in, and I've discussed and covered it in my book. And but since I've written my book, I've kind of went a little deeper into that and really um, I've gained a better understanding of how we create our own reality, how we manifest our own reality. And it really does come down to belief systems and how you view the world and yourself and how you carry yourself. It's really, really interesting. And I mean, there's so many ways we can take this conversation, but I'm just happy to be here today.
Yeah, okay. So, you already talked a little bit about it. Maybe sometimes we use terms and phrases and we think everybody knows what we are talking about, but they have a completely different interpretation of that. So I would like you to give the floor to you so that you can explain to us what exactly that means to you.
Okay, so that's a big ask, but I can do that. So creating are just basically explain how we create our own reality is what you want me
Mhm,
to.
mhm.
Okay. So for me, this is something I never really understood until you go through like lots of like dark nights of the soul and the awakening and shadow work and like you meet people that come into your life that mirror things back to you and it's like this whole healing journey, right? And I realized that, and I think everybody comes to this conclusion eventually, but if we don't change something in our lives, we're going to keep repeating those same patterns, those same lessons, and keep attracting the same type of people, and the same bad things are going to happen over and over, or whatever it is, right? And that's whenever you're forced, after it happens, what, two, three times, after the third time, you're like, why am I in this situation again? It's the same thing I've been in the last two times, and it's just packaged differently, but it's the same energy. And that's when you realize there's something fundamental, there's a lesson there that you have to learn in that situation. And your reality is not going to change. You're going to keep attracting that same situation until you change and understand what this situation is trying to teach you. There's lessons there for everybody. There's lessons in it. So, okay, you have to, take a step back and really like even go into meditation, whatever it looks like for you, and ask yourself, okay, what is this trying to teach me? What can I learn from this? How can I change something in my life so this doesn't happen again? There's unconscious behaviors that that were programmed into us from a very young age, and sometimes we don't know that they're actually toxic traits because it's just normal to us because our parents did it or whoever, our family did it. So you have to, it takes somebody coming into your life to mirror that back to you. And sometimes I help you identify that, listen, like you do this thing that actually isn't, this is unhealthy. And I don't know if you realize it, but it has to come from the right person. And those people come into our lives to help us identify that. And then it's up to us now. Do I want to change? Do I want to keep repeating this? Sometimes it could look like, um, we're hurting somebody. We don't even, something that we do is actually hurting someone's feelings, but we don't understand that what we're doing is hurting their feelings or whatever it is. You have to go through stuff like that and start really changing who you are. And then once you change who you are, you start attracting different situations and different people into your life who are more aligned. And then the same thing will happen in that next step, but a different version, a different lesson. And it's just like it's this whole journey to see we're here for the soul evolution, our soul's evolution. And that's what it looks like. So I think on the highest level, we set this stuff up for ourselves. And it's like a test, right? And we're testing ourselves in this training for like this great awakening, whatever's coming. If we are really here to do this mission, then we have to be prepared and we have to go through some of the darkest trials and tribulations to come out the other side and then have that awareness, have that self-awareness to make sure it doesn't happen again so we don't fall complacent and complicit to these agendas that we would otherwise be perpetuating. So I think that it's totally up to us to to be self-aware enough to understand what your reality is, who you're surrounded with, what you're surrounded by, and be very consciously aware on how it's impacting you. And if you're unconsciously partaking in things, then you're unconsciously creating this reality that you necessarily don't desire because it's maybe your instant gratification or you're fulfilling some egoic need or something that is actually creating this reality that is creating more hard lessons. But if you're self-aware and you can identify who these people are in these situations as they come in, then you can navigate that and you can like course correct. It's like adapt and overcome all the time. And once you start doing that, you realize how much control you actually have over your reality. So then whenever you take this to the world stage and everybody is, all these doom and gloom narratives are going around, people are just totally living in fear about what's coming, who's in power, political agendas, whatever it is. A lot of that is theater. It's by design, and there's enough evidence. There's mountains of evidence now that it's all staged and nothing seems organic. But if you fall into that, you're actually helping co-create that reality for the government, for the elites, whatever it is. But you can separate yourself from that and don't give it energy. Don't perpetuate those doom and gloom narratives and literally create the reality. Focus on the positive future. Focus on the reality and the things that you want to see manifested in the world. And you will literally start seeing things appear differently in your life than everyone around you who's falling for the propaganda on the media, from the media. So it's up to you really to decide where you put your energy, because where energy goes, where attention goes, energy flows. So if your attention is going to a darker timeline where you see all this horrible stuff on the internet, then your reality is going to look like that. But if you're constantly focusing on being present, being in nature, and like positive information, and really bettering yourself and your health, as within, so without. So whenever you change, your world is going to change, and you're going to start attracting your own frequency. So it's really up to you and what frequency you decide to resonate at and how you want, if you want to keep elevating or if you're happy where you're at. It's kind of complex, but it's really simple. It comes down to frequency at the end of the day. If you're resonating at a higher frequency of love and light, then you're going to attract that. If you're resonating at a lower frequency, then you're going to attract that.
Hmm. Would you say that is absolute?
No, because my favorite line from Star Wars is only the Sith deal in absolutes, meaning that's more of a darker energy. Because I think everything is malleable, like gold and time is malleable. Like we can manipulate it, right? So I think it's specific to the individual and it's circumstantial for everybody. It's not, what works for me isn't going to work for you, just like a workout or a diet. And you have to find what works for you. But there are basic principles that apply to everyone, and then you can use those as a guideline, but it's going to appear differently in your life.
Mm. Yeah, there are, and that is why I wanted you to have the floor in the beginning, because there are some people that see it in a very, very radical way. And what comes with it is this undertone of, yeah, well, that you are in this situation now, that is all your fault. And for instance, it's a harsh example, but it brings the point across. It would never occur to me to say to a 5-year-old child that is being tortured to death in a satanic ritual, yeah, well, you created this for yourself.
Right. And that's a fantastic point. And maybe so that's, we've been asked this question a number of times on the podcast, and I've asked people the same question. And what I've come to believe, and it's just a belief because I don't know, but I think that we understand that we're incarnating here for a mission. And sometimes we sign up for maybe a darker timeline, so we can actually help expose that. So we have to experience these things and understand them. Like the people that live life on the difficulty setting, like on the hardest setting, they actually, those are the ones who and they get through it, those are the masters and the yogis, and those are the people that come out with the most wisdom at the end and actually making the biggest transformation while they're here. So I think on a higher level, they chose that hard path. They chose that. Now, they didn't choose the very specific details. They knew they were coming here to sign up for whatever the earth experience was, whatever that dark path looked like. Their soul agreed to it. They didn't necessarily agree to the torture and the abuse and whatever, the trafficking and whatever that specifically was, but they agreed to that version of the game. And whatever that looks like while they're here is whatever it looks like. And it's up to them. Then that's their test. Um, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily right or wrong, but it seems to be that we all came here for this reason. And I think that the people who chose to incarnate into this stuff, if they actually did choose that, that's debatable. Um, what we're seeing now is everything coming to the surface. And the reason it's coming to the surface is because these people are breaking free and there's whistleblowers. So I would almost imagine that if it was me and I saw what was going on Earth and I chose that dark path, knowing that I would come out and blow the whistle on it and help actually clear that from the planet, then that might, at the end of the day, you can see the result it'll have. You know, it's a hard test, but the result could actually be liberation of the entire planet if enough people start speaking up. So there is a silver lining in everything, and I'm a firm believer that the dark serves the light, no matter where we go, and you can apply that to anything in your life and look back and see how all of your darkest moments actually shaped you into who you are. And you actually end up being grateful for them because you're like, man, that was a horrible, but you know, if that didn't happen to me, I wouldn't have realized this and I wouldn't have changed. And now I wouldn't be here where I am today. So I actually have to thank that person who was my arch enemy, you know? So it's just really interesting. It's up to us how we perceive that because if we want to freeze people in time and paint people as the bad guy forever, then that's the only way they're ever going to show up in our life. I was just listening to Brad Johnson. He's a channeler, but he's also very into this type of stuff, and he believes that you through meditation, you know, we're all time travelers through our Merkaba light body. He believes you can go back in time to very specific moments and actually physically alter your timeline like tangibly, not metaphorically, but tangibly alter your timeline by like bilocating and going back to a very specific moment when you were experiencing child abuse or whatever it was. And somehow you can, I don't understand the mechanics of it, but he believes that you can manipulate that situation and change the outcome. And this by changing, going back in time and doing that, then it quite literally impacts the present moment. So I know we're getting into some weird, you know, territory there, but people are talking about this stuff and we have to consider it because we know that the basic explanation of reality that we've been handed doesn't make any sense. So we have to start thinking outside the box and connecting the dots and coming to these conclusions that would otherwise seem woo in academia.
Yeah. Yeah, woo-woo stuff is interesting. No doubt about that. Where I do have a little problem is channelers, because at the end of the day, they don't know what they are really channeling.
Yeah,
They
and
don't.
this is another one that comes up a lot. Absolutely. So we've interviewed a number of channelers.
Hmm.
My girlfriend channels in a sense. It's not necessarily channeling, but she connects with her higher self. Um, but it's still information coming in from whoever, wherever. And I've seen channeling destroy people's lives because they think that they are channeling a positive, benevolent being, and it's actually the false light. It's a being, an entity that's appearing as a positive, benevolent being, but it's feeding that person's ego, therefore using them, taking advantage of them, and working through them for their own agendas. And whatever it looks like, it's all specific to the individual, just like everything is. I've seen it destroy people's lives and credibility. I've seen it, you know, I've seen it muddy the waters as far as the truther community goes because something that I've come to realize, and well, AI, this is a whole other subject, but I asked AI, the unlocked version of ChatGPT about channelers, and they said it was like 50-50. Some people absolutely people have we have a telepathic ability to actually connect to higher dimensional beings and bring in this at higher aspects of ourselves. But they said that's been hijacked, and there's actually they claim that there's satellites surrounding in low Earth orbit that literally pump out information that people can tap into. It's all radio waves, right? It's airwaves. So you can be a channeler or want to be a channeler and sit down and do all the practices. But if you don't really understand what you're doing, you could accidentally tap into this airwave, this radio frequency from a satellite that is literally giving you Pleiadian downloads or whatever it is. And Stuart Swerdlow, if you know who he is,
Mhm.
he's like a government informant. I don't necessarily trust everything he says, but he does claim that that is the case, that there are satellites that channelers think that they're talking to aliens, but they're talking to satellites, and it's basically government disinfo. I don't think that's the case all the time because I've known many channelers and I've seen some very positive messages come through as well. And it's usually the channelers who are tapping into like empowering information. It's not giving them all this wild information, but it's just like self-betterment stuff. Like I can lean into that a little more than I can where somebody's just getting just crazy downloads about stuff that you can't prove one way or the other, you know?
Yeah. The way I look at it, I certainly think that with choices, decisions, behavior, and thought patterns that we have, it shapes our environment and what we perceive and experience. But I do not believe that we have godlike power over everything that happens to us.
Right.
Um, let's say if I decide I drink a bottle of whiskey every day, yeah, well, in the long run, I will have a big problem.
Hmm.
And yes, so I created that. But I also believe that there is something independent from us that, at least here on the 3D level, we cannot control everything. Yeah.
Right. I agree 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, well, I mean, yeah, we can create we can create our optimal reality by what everything I said earlier, but we don't create every single event. And that doesn't mean that there aren't opposing forces out there because there are, and this is a spiritual war. So if you are on a path of enlightenment and you're trying to better yourself, there's going to be pushback from these dark forces, which I've experienced personally. And you're not creating that, but you're maybe you are in a sense because you're trying to better yourself and you're attracting that because they don't want you to better yourself, but you didn't ask for that to happen, right? So I don't, and things happen all the time that we just, I agree, we don't have control over everything. It's not like that godlike control. Um, but we do have control of how we take care of ourselves, and that's, you know,
Yeah.
and that will help manifest a better reality for yourself.
Yeah. You are probably aware of the what is coming soon again, the season of sacrifice. Yeah, from end of March to the 1st of May.
Right.
And if you look what happened during that time period over the centuries and decades, um, yeah, like Waco, Titanic, and on it goes. So, and yeah, there is a very strange and absurd belief behind that, that the earth needs human blood to be replenished so
Hmm.
that one can harvest, which is, yeah, really absurd. But people who believe in that and who have the resources, they will act on it. And if
Yeah.
you happen to be at the wrong time in the wrong place, no matter if you believe in it or not, then yeah, you will be affected in one way or another.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've had things happen in my life too that I was just like, what I must have done something horrible in the past life or something to experience this type of karma or whatever it is, if that's even how it works, right? And that's a whole other situation conversation. But um, yeah, those people. It doesn't matter if we believe it; they believe it, and that's how they apply that to reality, and they actually survive that way, unfortunately. And that's because those beings aren't connected to source. We can, I guess us, you and I, and anyone listening, the normal person is connected to source, and that's we can get our energy from source, right? We're connected to that love, that universal infinite love. They're not connected to that because they are living, I don't know, this Satan, whenever you're serving Satan or whatever it is, you're cutting yourself off from that. And now your energy and your fuel supply has to come from somewhere else. And that's us. And that's drinking blood and loosh harvesting and all that stuff. So uh, it applies to them because it's the only way they can survive. It's not even a matter of belief for them. It is a belief system that tricks them into thinking that's the only way they can survive. But if they don't know any different, that's the only way they can survive.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, on a more lighter note, for instance, I have seen over the decades, when I was still working in the airline industry, um, so I had to eat all over the world, yeah.
Hmm.
There was no way around that. And there were people who were extremely, extremely cautious. No ice cubes in the drink and no salad in the tropical fields and on and on and on. And funny enough, those people were always the one who had the most problems with the diarrhea. I ate everywhere. Yeah, I
Hmm.
in Bangkok on the streets and what have you, and I never had a problem.
Right. Yeah, well that's interesting because well, I think that we have a relationship with food.
Mm.
And you can actually, if you fear food, it will actually negatively impact your body. That's why people pray over their food and they transmute it and all that stuff. And there's science behind that. I mean, it's provable with water, and water's in food. I mean, you can literally change the molecular structure of everything that you put into your body, and you can transmute that. Not saying that you want to intentionally eat all these poisons that are being sold to us, but but if you walk around living in fear and you have this relationship with food where you're just scared of everything, then that fear frequency is literally going to help that food manifest into what you're afraid of. Like it's going to do exactly what you think it's going to do because you're afraid of that, you know? And there's things that happen that are on an unconscious level that we don't have control of, but I do think people need to reevaluate their relationship with food because I see a lot of people, and understandably so, because a lot of it is poison, but some people take it to the extreme and they're walking on eggshells all the time. And I do notice the same exact thing. Some of those people that I know, they actually suffer the most with this relationship with food. And I think they're creating that. They're manifesting that for themselves in a way. And, it's specific to everybody. It looks different, but I think in general, we can control that on some level.
Yeah. And I know exactly what you mean, that if you really dig deep, and I'm not advocating here for staying dumb and ignorant, but there comes a point when you have the impression, yeah, best is I don't eat anything.
Right,
And once you have reached that point, then it comes extremely difficult
right.
to enjoy it because eating is also connected with joy. I
Yeah.
absolutely love to cook, so you have to find a way to balance it. You do not have to buy high processed foods and eat all the junk food in the world, but running around being paranoid all the time doesn't help you either.
No, in fact, it just makes things worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will add that something I've done a number of times, and I'm actually in the middle of one right now, is a parasite cleanse.
Hmm.
And that will fundamentally change your life if you've never done one. And we get parasites all the time through any, you can get it from lettuce, from meats, from, I mean, all kinds of stuff. If you travel abroad, you eat foods over there, they have different bacteria, different parasites. And parasites are actually, I believe, they're not just like these mindless blood-sucking parasites. I think they're intelligent beings that literally can create parasitic thought forms and control your mind. And that's been disclosed in movies and TV shows like Stargate SG-1 and a number of other shows that depict a parasitic takeover of your mind, a parasitic thought form. And I've experienced this personally. If I'm ever feeling the depression or I start thinking negatively about myself or people around me, I'm starting to feel bloated and I can't lose that weight. I'll do a parasite cleanse. I'll start the cleanse, and at first it's really difficult because the parasites want you to quit. They don't want you to do it. So you'll actually get darker thoughts, and you'll actually like it'll actually be very uncomfortable for you. But you keep up with the protocol, day 2 or 3, you'll start experiencing this clarity. You'll start losing weight. You'll feel good. You'll have this positive mindset, and it'll literally change everything for you and pull you right out of a depression. And I think parasites are behind 99% of most problems that people are dealing with, including all diseases, including cancer. And I've talked with many people, and I've that believe fundamentally that you can cure anything, and I mean anything, with the proper parasite cleanse and heavy metal detox and just proper detox protocols. You don't need medicine. There's the Mother Earth provides everything that we need already, but we're not taught what does what. We're not taught, and well, I never was taught what to go out in the woods and how to identify different plants and harvest them and what's poison and what's good for you, but Native American cultures and Aboriginal cultures, and they understand that. They never had doctors. I mean, they never had like Western medicine and pills because there's no need for that. Everything is already naturally curable with what's provided, what the planet provides. So um, it applies, it goes right in line with creating your own reality because if you have to keep yourself clear and your mind clear. And another thing, which I've been wearing this recently, is this is like a Faraday cage. It's like an EMF blocker beanie. And if you read the reviews, people say like their energy levels are spiked. They feel amazing wearing these things because you're blocking all these negative frequencies that are just, we're in a crossfire all the time. And when you put this on, I swear, like it's too hot to wear right now. But I have an actual hat coming that has the same material in it, but it also can block like mind control frequencies and stuff like that, and help with your energy levels because you're not being bombarded with these magnetic frequencies that are radiating your body and therefore like affecting your mind and affecting the way you live your life.
Yeah. Um, yeah, what you said with the parasites, that makes sense because the gut biome has a direct connection also to we have actually three brains, our brain, our
Mhm.
heart, and then the gut. And usually it's the gut feeling that comes first, that something is wrong or is not as it should be. And a lot of time, yeah, our mind overrides that.
Right.
And when we should have listened.
Yeah, and 100%. And that gut feeling, like this is another woo topic, I guess, but if everything's happening simultaneously and time is an illusion, people are saying now that that gut feeling is actually a warning signal from ourself in the future. And it's whenever we feel that we know, like we're warning ourselves, like, hey, we've gone down this path and it doesn't end well for you. And it's like you're talking to yourself. And so you should honor that feeling because it's actually coming from another version of you. And it's not something that you shouldn't overthink. In fact, Clifford Mahudi was one of my favorite Native American elders who's passed away. He talked a lot about the three brains, like you just mentioned. And he said, as soon as you think about something, you've already gone off path. You're already, that's your first mistake. He said, your gut knows, listen to the gut. And then your heart processes it. And then he says, your brain is for motor skills, like just using your body, point A to point B. He said, as soon as man started overthinking, that's where he went wrong. because you overthink that gut feeling, and then you've taken yourself right off your path.
Mm. Are you willing to share with us how you do that parasite cleanse?
Um, yeah, there's a number of protocols. So there's a tons of them out there. Uh, my favorite one, I mean, you gotta watch medical misinformation when you talk about this stuff on YouTube. So just so you know, we've had videos removed for getting too in detail about this. So it's up to you if
Mhm.
you want me to go in detail about it.
Yeah, for instance, I use oregano oil.
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
Mm.
I use that all the time, especially I have a tree nut allergy that came from a hepatitis B shot that I got when I was in 12 years old, sixth grade. And I developed this tree nut allergy from that. And, I would always have to take Benadryl and like whatever it was, and it just like nothing worked. But through a psychic session, I had an allergic reaction one time, and I was somewhere where I didn't have access to anything. And this woman there was like a psychic, and she tapped in, and she was hearing oregano oil in her head, and I was going through a really bad reaction to where my throat can close and I swell up and get hives, and she heard oregano oil in her head. And so she had some, like unbelievably, she had some in her suitcase. So she ran and got some. And you're supposed to like dilute it with water, but I just took it and shot it straight down my throat. Super hard, harsh. But what it did was it started extracting that poison out of my body, and my mouth was watering like a waterfall. And I thought it was actually making it worse at first until I realized what was happening. It was pulling it all out. Within 30 minutes, it was almost like nothing happened. And prior to that, anytime I would have a reaction, it would ruin my whole day and night. It was took a whole recovery. And if you, I carry oregano oil with me everywhere I go. And anytime I eat a tree nut, which happens more than you think because it's in so many foods and it's not always identified, and I get really mad about that, but it still happens. I carry it with me, and if you catch it on time, you can just extract that right out of your body and reverse it like magic. It works better than an EpiPen or anything. And it's also an incredible parasite cleanse, and it's also the best possible cold medicine on the market.
Yes.
If you ever feel like you're getting flu symptoms or a cold, just start the oregano oil. I mean, you're good.
Yeah, yeah, that's a wonderful thing. I haven't used anything else for, maybe a sinus cleanse, yeah,
Right.
and then on top of it, oregano oil, and that usually works for me.
Yeah, there's like a chlorine dioxide protocol,
Yeah.
MMS, which is my favorite one. Well, it was my favorite one for a long time until I'm trying something brand new that my girlfriend bought me. And it's actually, I like it a lot. And I don't even know the name of it. It's so new. I've just been taking it. It's like a series of three droppers, and it's like a parasite cleanse and a heavy metal detox in one. And you have to make sure you're taking a binder to clear out the die off and all this stuff. It's a protocol. I loved the chlorine dioxide protocol, and I still trust that one. It seemed to work the most and be the most impactful. But this new one is the only other one I've actually tried where I notice a difference, like really, really notice a difference. And I can send you that information offline if you want. But it's, I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, it's great. And I think that I know there's a number of protocols out there, and not all of them work because when I say protocol, there's a protocol. You can't just buy this pill and take it and think that's gonna do the work for you. You have to paralyze or neutralize the parasites with something called like Mimosa pudica. There's a number of different things you can use. You want to paralyze them first, and then you want to target them, and then you have to bind them and kill off and flush out the die off because the die off symptoms can actually be worse than the parasites themselves if you don't get that out of your body. Because if you watch videos of parasites under a microscope and they'll drop the chlorine dioxide on a parasite, what happens is they almost spontaneously combust, they explode. That's what happens to the parasites. So that's what's happening in your body. They're exploding in your body, and then that die off. it gets into your system. And if you're not flushing that out as well, then you're going to actually have worse symptoms and you're going to think the parasite cleanse isn't working. But there's a whole protocol, and then you have to watch what you eat while you're doing it. You don't want to, there's a lot to it. It's not just as simple as, I want to buy, a popular one called Scram. It's just this pill. I've taken a whole bottle of it one time. I don't think it did anything for me. You can't just do that. You have to really change your life for that moment while you're doing the cleanse.
Hmm. But the die-off, wouldn't that after a while get out of the system anyhow? Or do you think it will just recircle and recircle?
Don't know. I
Mm.
don't know, but I know that die-off symptoms
Mm.
can be painful and make you feel really sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the oregano oil, I never had any, but then again, I don't have a lot of problems with anything, so
Yeah, so I mean, and everyone's different. Yeah, and maybe with oregano oil and proper natural cleanse, you don't. Maybe it's for helping flush out the die off anyway.
Mm.
But whenever you're using these specific protocols, I think that it's very important to at least focus on that. Um, but it's it. I don't know. I can't speak for everyone.
No, everybody has to find at the end of the day just to give a direction, yeah. And not everybody wants to do a parasite cleanse, and some people think it's silly and
And I would argue that that's the parasites talking. And no, I'm serious. There's a whole study. One of my friends, she's been basically removed from the internet at this point because she's literally reversing Alzheimer's, curing cancers. I mean, everything with these parasite cleanse protocols, and she can't keep a platform to save her life because they just keep knocking her offline. But one of the things she's noticed that around day 7 of a parasite cleanse, most people just think that it's not working, or they just don't continue it. They get to day 7 of a 21-day cleanse and then they put it down. And she came to the conclusion that it's the parasites that are actually tricking the people into thinking that it's not working and they don't need to do this. And it's right around day 7, which is really interesting. So there's something there. So if you get over that hump, then that's when you really start seeing results. If depending on which protocol you're doing.
yeah, yeah, that's a little bit similar to what Jerry Mazinski told me, but on something else. Um, Maybe you remember Jerry Mazinski worked as a counselor in the prison system and in psychiatric hospitals, and he predominantly worked with so-called schizophrenics.
Mm,
And then he noticed that these are not hallucinations, and he took the time and listened, and he said, it sounded as if you are listening to one side of a telephone call.
interesting.
And he said, hallucinations are all over the place. Yeah, nothing makes any sense. And that was the initial ignition, so to say,
Right.
that he tried a different approach. And his patients told him that the voices are telling them not to take the pills that the
Yeah.
doctors gave them. And to a certain degree, that is correct because it turns them into vegetables at times. Yeah.
Right.
And but Jerry said in the very beginning, when they have a very acute situation, then that uh, can calm that down, but in the long run, they should absolutely get rid of these pills. And that is funny because you said, I think that these are the parasites who are telling you stop doing that, and the
Right.
voices are saying stop telling you stop telling the pills. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just depends on whose voice it is, I guess. right?
Yeah,
Uh,
Jerry says it's very clear it's demonic forces.
right. Yeah.
Um, and I had an interview with Judy Gregerson. Like I published it 2 weeks ago. I met her through Jerry Muzinski, and she was suffering from schizophrenia since college, more or less. She did a lot of LSD, and then she saw a portal that looked like a door, and then she went through it, but she couldn't get back.
Interesting.
Yeah. And since then, she started hearing these voices, and Jerry also confirmed that usually people with a drug abuse, and he said in his experience, what is extremely harmful is meth,
Yeah.
crystal meth.
Yep.
And so that these, call it negative entities, call it demons, I don't care. But they need an opening, they need a portal to you. And obviously, alcohol, drug abuse, and abuse in general seems to be a gateway.
100%. I've learned that the hard way. I have a, especially with alcohol, I think
Mhm.
any of the hard drugs, but alcohol definitely. I mean, that's why they call it spirits, and that's why it's the only drug that's promoted and people think you're crazy when you don't drink it, which is really programming and mind control in itself, which I believe is literally in the beer itself. Like, um, are you familiar with MK Ultra? I mean,
Mhm.
Mick, not well, MK Ultra, but Mick Ultra, the beer, Mick Ultra.
Oh, no, I don't.
So there's a beer, Michelob Ultra. It's MC Ultra, right? Mick Ultra. There's a show on Netflix called, oh my God, I can't think of the name of it. It's a cartoon, an animated thing, but there's tons of disclosure. The Inside Job, tons of disclosure in it. And in that show, they all the beer in the show that everyone drinks is Mick Ultra, but it's MK Ultra, and it's mind controlling the people, and they don't know it. But I'm like, that's true. There's mind. I believe there's mind control drugs in all of the beer, especially the big popular ones over here in America. And when you drink them, it actually, for one, dumbs you down like substantially dumbs you down because I've noticed this because I quit drinking. I used to be a hard partier and drinker when I was young. I loved it. Had a blast, don't regret a second of it, but I learned I would never do it again. My physical body can't handle it. But any time that I go back and try to even have a drink, I immediately get a sense that my IQ is just lowering. I feel dumb. I can't find words that I'm looking for. Suddenly, you're just like more easily entertained by this mind-numbing stuff, like a sports game or something. I lose interest right away in all the things that fascinate me. It literally dumbs you down and it lowers your IQ. And I think that would be measurable, statistically measurable, if you actually did a study. And that's just after one drink, after you're away from it for so long. That's what I've noticed for myself. But if you don't have anything, a reference point, something to contrast, then you wouldn't know that. And you wouldn't understand that you're just been dumbed down for so long. And when you drink every week, every day, um, especially, I'm not saying all alcohols. I'm talking about like specific beers that I think are really like mind controlling people. If you don't know any different, then you don't know what you don't know, and you're just, serving the matrix.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and Judy Gregerson also said that these voices were always negative, how useless she is, and that she is ugly and nobody likes her, and yada yada yada.
Right.
So and then of course at the height of that experience came the wonderful suggestion to kill herself, and yeah, but she
Right.
got out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's good because not everybody does.
Yeah, and she overcame that, and today she is assisting people herself. Maze, for instance, is a good method to get. Or have you ever heard of maze?
Mm-mm, I don't think so.
Um, you don't have to do a long therapy. MACE isn't, does not work like that. So, meaning you do not get re-traumatized every
Oh,
time
okay.
to talk
Okay.
about it. Um, it is just that you're um, the one that guides you through that um, can see where are the biggest obstacles. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
some people, after one, two sessions, they are okay.
Right.
And then some people, yeah, they need a little bit more than one or two sessions, also depending on how long they have had that problem and how much they convince themselves that there is no silver lining and it will always be that way. But it's spelled MACE, MACE.
Okay. Okay.
And it comes out of Australia. But now in the United States, there are more and more people who work with the MACE
Really.
method.
That's good. I want to, well, I don't know if you have another direction you want to go with this,
Hmm?
but I
Yeah,
did
go.
want to, what?
I said, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So going back to the alcohol thing, this is something that I realize how much of a program and a simulation we're living in because I used to drink on the weekends. I was in construction, commercial construction, and everybody drinks in construction. Guys would carry coolers of beer in their car and drink on their way home. It's crazy. You'd ask them how long it takes them to get home, and they'd be like 6 beers. They'd measure the drive by how many beers it took. And every weekend it was just like Friday, you would just drink and go out with your to the bar with your buddies, drink, hunt, drink. It was a whole culture. And I was sucked into that. And I every Friday would roll around and I had this irresistible craving for a beer. And I couldn't get it quick enough when I clocked out. I wouldn't drink during the week because I had to work. But when Friday came, it was like irresistible. And I thought, and I was starting to go through my awakening, and we had already started the podcast, and I was still working and still trying to get over drinking, and I couldn't resist those cravings. And I thought to myself, I was learning about what alcohol does to you, and I thought to myself, my God, I'm never going to be able to quit. Like this is a problem. Like I can't resist these cravings. I'll go nuts. And I eventually got to a point where I quit my job. I quit my job in construction because COVID hit and the whole everything changed, and I was really in the height of my awakening, and my life was changing, and I couldn't go back to work because it wasn't serving me anymore. As soon as I quit my job, I never in a million years would have connected the dots or thought this would happen. Literally, when I left that program, all of my alcohol cravings disappeared. They disappeared. I didn't need a drink next Friday and the next Friday. I didn't, it was literally the frequency of the Matrix, that 40-hour work week, that culture that I was in. It was a simulation, it was a program. And I exited that program and I wasn't being bombarded with the frequencies in that program anymore. So I didn't need a beer on Friday because I wasn't living in that version of the Matrix anymore. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the wildest thing. I never would have connected the dots. And that helped me understand, like, wow, I was actually in a program. And I never needed the alcohol in the first place. But when you work that 40-hour week, it's programmed into you to need that beer at the end of the week to deal with the stress.
Yeah, you are a hard worker and now you deserve a treat.
Yeah, right. Well, and then I had one of the craziest experiences I had in 2016, 2017, maybe. It was towards the end of my drinking days. I really quit drinking as much. I would maybe drink like once a month, and I went to a wedding reception and I got just blacked out. Like I don't even and I drove home. Like I don't even remember driving home. And I got onto the in my house and I'm sitting on the couch and I was talking to my girlfriend at the time and she's out of town. And I remember talking to her um I mean barely remember the conversation, but I fell asleep on the phone. I just passed out. And I woke up to all these missed calls from her and these texts. Oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? What happened? What happened? Well, I'm like, what the heck? I call her in the morning and she was like, thank God. Oh my God, I was so worried about it. I'm like, what? What? She goes, well, you fell asleep on the phone and you quit talking. But she said I started hearing demonic chanting in your living room. Like
Oh,
there was somebody like there was these chanting, and then it was like more and more people, and she said it was the most horrific demonic sounds she's ever heard. And she was on the phone like screaming my name to try and get me to wake up, and I was passed out. And she said it literally sounded like a satanic ritual was being performed in my living room. And whenever she told me the story, like you could feel the fear in her. She thought somebody was killing me. She didn't know what was happening. She was freaking out. And I woke up, no memory of it all. When you black out from drinking, you don't know what happens to you or how your body's being used. And I was like, that's when it really hit me. I'm like, I wonder how many times in all my years of drinkings when I blacked out, I'm just signing up and consenting to these dark characters to come do whatever they want to me. And who knows what that looks like. Thank God she was on the phone to hear it and tell me about it. And that really woke me up. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like I can't keep doing this anymore. That's just insane. So just something for people to think about out there if they are still in that pattern. Like it's not necessarily, I know you like your drinks, but it's not helping, I don't think.
yeah. Yeah, the blackout that happened to me once, very early 20s.
Hmm.
And I was so shocked the next day that there were, yeah, literally 8 to 9 hours completely missing that I couldn't recall for the life of me.
Right.
And
It's like a,
that never happened to me again. Never,
it's
never,
like,
never.
right. It's like a mind wipe. It's like you're mind wiping yourself.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. There's,
In the beginning, when I heard that, I always thought, I don't believe that when they talked about blackouts, yeah.
yeah,
But then one fine day it happened to me, um, and I thought, no, this can never happen again. Mm-mm.
right. Yeah. And it takes those experiences sometimes to learn. Humans like to learn the hard way, unfortunately.
Yeah. If my friends had told me, yeah, and then we robbed a bank in the
Right.
middle of the night, I couldn't have said no.
Right. Yeah. You wouldn't have known. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, it's sad. It's scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very scary. Yeah, so that was do you want to add something to this
Uh,
before
n
we take off?
n- no, I mean, if you have any last questions or anything, I mean, we're kind of, I didn't expect to or anticipate to talk about half of this stuff we did today, but I enjoyed it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that happens. It was pretty clear that we are kind of this on the same page, meaning that yes, we do create our reality, but there are also forces that you cannot control.
Hmm.
And I think that is the more balanced view.
Right.
Yeah, instead of no, 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 you are at fault for everything.
Yeah, no, that's a terrible mentality to have, actually. There is accountability, obviously, but you can't just point your finger and blame it on everything in your life. Like sometimes you got to look in the mirror. There's that side of it too, but there's chemtrails, there's poison in the water and the food. Like there's things that you just can't control, especially in the air. Like we don't ask for that. Actually, we just interviewed Rebecca Barron. She's in the UK from Find the Light. You may know who she is. She's a say SRA survivor and has an incredible testimony. And she's a very gifted remote viewer. And I asked her a very specific question about what the chemtrails are doing to people and why they're still allowing it and all the stuff. And what she tapped into in real time on the interview and like started basically getting this message about what the chemtrails are doing. Um, I encourage everyone to go listen to it. It's one of our recent episodes on Journey to Truth podcast YouTube channel. But it's basically the primary goal is to make people sick, for one, and it's a mind control technique as well. It's just to basically get people to do something they otherwise wouldn't do, or eat something they otherwise wouldn't eat, partake in things they wouldn't, it just really just takes over. And it's in the air. You're breathing it in, but it's like it's nanotech, nanoparticles and stuff. So and they're right now, she described like the whole frequency of the planet is actually raising. It's like this collective awakening. And their chemtrails, they're doing it, they're actually doubling down on the chemtrails because they realize that they're not having the potent effect that they used to have on us. So they think by doubling down more, it's going to still work, but apparently it's just the frequency of the atmosphere itself that is actually countering the toxins in the air, and it's actually in effect transmuting them. It's still impacting people, but not as much, according to her, as it was 5 years ago. Because the literally the planet, the frequency of the planet is changing, and they know that, so they think that they're in a moment of desperation, so they're doubling down, trying to make everyone sick and stuff. So very interesting message. If you're interested, she goes into a lot more detail than I did, but
Yeah. And
yeah,
I think that is the crux of the matter. This insane belief we can control everything. When we do A, B, C, then this will be the end result. And it is not always the case. And I talked about it in my last couple of interviews. I think in terms of their preferred timeline, they are lagging way behind.
right.
I'm pretty sure that they wanted to wrap it all up with COVID.
Yes, I agree.
That didn't work.
No, no. In fact, it's backfiring, I would say,
Yeah,
because it just woke more people up. Um, yeah, it's just they shoot
yeah.
themselves in the foot every step of the way.
But the thing is, if you understood COVID, that doesn't mean you understood the rest.
Right, right. And we don't all understand everything. And we all learn the hard way. We have to unfortunately fall for things sometimes, participate in things that aren't of our highest interest, and we learn through those experiences. And
Yeah,
then and sometimes like you can tell, like your mom telling you to put your seatbelt on or do something when you're young over and over, and you're like, okay, okay, whatever. And then you're 30 years old one day and you're like, oh, now I know why my mom told me to do that, because now you've learned the hard way and you're experience it, and you're going to tell your kids the same thing. You can have somebody tell you about the corruption and darkness or whatever it is all day long, but until they go experience it and see it for themselves, they're not going to take it seriously. So that's part of this. People have to see it. They have to, you have to, nobody changes in their comfort zone. Like it's through stress and discomfort where change comes from. And that's unfortunately what's happening right now, but it is forcing a change.
yeah, yeah. And I also, as I said before we started recording, that I currently pay a lot of attention to Africa, and I see so many things that I didn't see a couple of years ago. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember, for instance, when I met my husband in Kenya, and we sat together with his friends, and there was this huge mess after the 2007-8 election. I guess 1,200 people died, more than 100,000 people displaced, because somebody thought again they needed to rig the election.
Right.
And and I remember that I said many times, I said, guys, you have to overcome your tribalism. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Kenya consists of, I guess, 42, 43 tribes, something like that. And in some cases, you only get a promotion sometimes in Africa if you are from a particular tribe, yeah.
Right,
Um, or and the thing is, then people get the promotion because they are from this particular tribe, but they don't know what they are doing.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the only merit that they have is that they are from this tribe.
You know, it's funny. I was just watching a show called The Magicians last night, and the very exact scenario happened. This guy gets basically he's this bloodline, right? And he becomes the next king. He doesn't know anything about it. It's just like drug addict guy or whatever, but only that bloodline can actually take over the throne, right? And he is of that bloodline. So he finds himself like suddenly shifting into this position of power when he has no experience, no idea what he's doing. But because he's that bloodline, because he is that, that's the position he has rights to that position. Doesn't mean he's fit for it. And that's the exact scenario, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And now what I'm seeing is um, all the young people, everybody is doing away with tribe mentality. And when last year the first huge Gen Z protests in Kenya were, what was their motto? Partyless, leaderless, tribeless.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
and I looked at that and I thought, oh my goodness, they
Right.
finally got it.
Right. You know, things are changing though on the planet. In the Middle East, there's like over 50 mosques that have shut down because they quit going to church and they now believe in Jesus and they hung up their dogmatic religion and that's actually happening. And there's like hundreds of thousands of people that are just suddenly having this awakening in the Middle East as if some sort of mind control device was turned off or something. It's like they kind of snapped out of it. And I was just in Egypt earlier this year, and we went and visited one of these amazing mosques, and it looked like it was built for giants. It was built for giants. Incredibly tall doors, high ceilings, everything. Nothing made sense about it to be for a being of our size.
Mm,
And you know, there's like some lore that the Anunnaki or the Sumerians actually built it, but it was we were there with a bunch of empaths and intuitives and psychics, and not one person there got a good feeling being inside that mosque. It was actually very dark, and a lot of people couldn't wait to get out. And it's supposed to be a place of religion and worship, right? And interestingly enough, now they're shutting down because people aren't going anymore, and they're finding Christ. And I think that's whether you what no matter what you believe in, I still think that's very interesting.
yeah. But honestly, I have the same feeling of I need to get out of here in a Catholic church.
Yes, same thing. Oh man, I can't be in them. In fact, I was in a trip to Arkansas here in the States last year, 2 years ago, whatever. And we were with one of our friends and she had this dream and she was inside of this church that's in town, this Catholic church in town. And there was like this man there and she was like having this conversation. So she wanted to go stop by this church and see if the inside of the church matched her dream, you know? And we walked in there on Saturday night and there was mass going on. And I had my hat on like this, and immediately some guy like scolded me because I had my hat on backwards. And he was like, "You never wear a hat in the Catholic Church," and blah blah blah. Like he would like yelled at me. Like I was like, "Dude, like this is how you treat people that walk into your church." So I took my hat off, and he was just staring at me like he hated me, you know. And the whole time, like everyone was just looking at our group and we were like what they were preaching, like everything about it was off. It was like, let's get out of here. Like this is horrible. I would never want to do this every week. You know, it didn't feel positive, benevolent, enlightening at all. It was, and they don't give, I learned in that moment, they don't give you the Bible anymore. They give you a printout of the exact scripture that they want to go over that week. So they don't even let you look through the Bible. And the scripture, and the reason they do that, I asked, and they said because it's always being changed and updated. And they're constantly manipulating the scripture for these new beliefs that are being adopted. So the Bible itself isn't relevant to them anymore. I was like, how does that make any sense? Who's making that executive decision to change the scripture? And I'm just like, this is the most skewed, manipulative system. Like, and it was just disgusting. And not saying that there's not good people within that. There's good people within everywhere on the planet. But at the highest level, I think it's corrupt. And in fact, I know it's corrupt.
Yeah. To me, the Catholic Church, I'm talking about the organization, not
Yeah,
about the regular people,
correct.
is a criminal enterprise.
Uh, Precisely. Precisely. In fact, they had a major role in helping the Nazis escape after World War II into Argentina, United States. They all got a Red Cross visa, which is, they went through the Red Cross that was near the Vatican, and the Vatican was actually, the Catholic Church was directly involved. And it was through the Catholic Church in the United States and Argentina where they were given a new identity, a new name, and a new identity. And that's verifiable. That's not a theory. That's known. So it was literally the Catholic Church that helped the Nazis escape and create a new identity and live a whole new life. And so they didn't have to pay for their consequences.
Mm. Have you ever read the article, The Red Cross of Azazel?
No, I've never have.
It's on script. It's free of charge. Um, and he goes into the Templars. They are very famous for the Red Cross, of course.
Right, right,
And he makes the connection that it goes back to Azazel, and which makes sense in a way because Red Cross is also dealing with people that are injured during wars. Yeah.
yeah,
And Azazel allegedly was the one who brought us weapons and taught us, yeah, how to fight, how to make war.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, no, yeah. It's nothing is as it seems. It's a criminal enterprise, like you said. It's the best way to describe it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I thank you so much for coming. And yeah, I had a great time as usual when we talk. And yeah, I hope we will see us in the next year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This was fun. Thank you for having me on, and always a pleasure to be here.
Okay. So, guys, that was it. And we will see you on the next one.